What's going on, everybody? It's Rasco, and today we're talking about the Season 3 premiere of The Flash. So let's get right into it. So if you can think back to how I was reacting to the later episodes of The Flash Season 2, I was kind of getting irritated because I feel like they didn't really know what they wanted to do at the ending of the season. Like, I don't think they had it, like, the plot fully structured, so it kind of felt like they were just, like, trying to make things happen that didn't feel natural, I guess. But there were a few episodes that were really good. And at the ending of the season, it felt like the finale just kind of undid everything that was good about the ending of the second season. So I was really irritated by that. And if you can just let all of that go and enjoy this episode on its own, this is actually pretty cool. And simultaneously, ultimately, it seems so far kind of like a contrivance, but we can get to that later. Let's start off with the good stuff, I guess. This episode, I like how it starts off and just kind of like throws you into this new timeline from Barry's perspective. And it was really interesting just to get to see Barry interact with people in a different way because they're not the same people who have lived the same lives as the people that he knows in the original timeline, I guess. So it was cool how they just kind of like throw you into this world where Wally West is the Flash, Kid Flash, I guess. And there's the rival, and those are like the two battling speedsters. I think that was kind of cool just to get to have that just thrown right at you right at the beginning of the episode. The opening Barry and Iris scene I really liked. And I thought it was just cool to get to see Wally West as Kid Flash and just right off the bat. And I think the costume looked pretty cool. On screen, I liked the costume enough. And the rival had like a weird mask. I'm not feeling that, but I did like some other aspects of his costume. But Kid Flash, that costume is really good, I think. It was interesting to see how Barry has now taken on the role that Jay Garrick originally kind of played, and also what Eobard Thawne has played. He's the speedster now that's going back in time and doing things and shifting the timeline and messing things up. And it was cool because Barry, there's that line where Eobard Thawne's like, I think you're becoming the villain. He said something about like Barry potentially becoming the villain or something like that. Or maybe I'm just making that line up, but I'm pretty sure he said something about that. And I think that was cool because, yeah, like Barry has now taken on this role of being, he's sympathetic and wanting to change the past, but the fact that he's like warping to the timeline to fit his personal like needs is like, it's really like, oh, that's kind of villainous, Barry. I don't really like that aspect of your personality that you're so willy-nilly to do these things. And I thought it was cool when he's like, you're gonna beg me to kill your mother, Barry. I was like, oh my god, that scene's gonna happen later, and it's gonna be cool. But when I was watching the beginning of this episode, I thought we were gonna stay in this timeline for a lot longer than we did. I didn't think it was gonna wrap up by the ending of the episode, so I thought we were gonna see like Season 3 be Barry in this new timeline, and he kind of like morphs into like a villain by the end of the season, and like not like a villain where he's like evil, but where he's like, oh my god, I can't believe I've been such a careless and inconsiderate person, and I've been morphing the timeline just to fit my own personal wants. That's messed up. And then he like learns that he can't do this kind of stuff, but they kind of condensed some of that to one episode. But that's where some of the problems come in, because at the ending of this episode, so Barry, the more he uses his speed, the more that like this timeline sets in as permanent, and he like forgets the other timeline that he's from. And it gets to the point where it's like, okay, this timeline isn't really worse than the other one. And Barry, he made a decision. He's like, I'm going to change the past because I want my mother to still be alive. And that's okay. But what's weird about that is that at the ending of this episode, he's like, you know what? I've got to, if I, I'm going to lose my powers unless I go back and fix this and, have Eobard Thawne kill my mother. And it's like, Barry, at the ending of the episode, you're choosing, the only reason you really choose to set the timeline straight again is because you wanted to keep your powers. And I don't, from Barry's perspective, I understand how he can see it differently, but like it does kind of come down to like Barry's like, I don't want to really, I'm the Flash, like I can't not be the Flash, so I've got to fix this all because I'm the Flash. And it's like, well, Barry, I mean, it's not like your life's worse here. I mean, it really comes down to you need to keep your powers, so you're going to set the timeline how it was originally supposed to be. And it's like, you become really kind of like villainous at that point, Barry. And Barry does that frequently, and I don't think the people writing the show realize it. I don't think they're aware that sometimes Barry walks into villainous territory. But it's whatever. It was still overall entertaining. I really like to see, I liked seeing Cisco as like this weird, like trying to be all cool and sophisticated rich guy Cisco, because I don't know what the actor's name is who plays Cisco, but I think he was actually pretty cool as like this like, big jerkish billionaire type guy. It's like, I like that Cisco better. We should bring this Cisco into the other timeline because I like that. It was kind of strange that we didn't ask anything, or we didn't ask any questions about where Wells was. I don't know if there's like a reason why that wouldn't make sense, but from what I remember, like there's no reason why Barry wouldn't be like, hey, where's Wells, by the way, in this timeline. That would be cool if they had brought him in. I would have liked to see that, but by the end of the episode, we've already gone back to the regular timeline. And by the way, have to mention this actually. The Flash series, I feel like it does this so often, and maybe I'm just like making this up in my head, but I think this happens quite a bit where Barry will at the ending, like there'll be like the big ending climax fight of the episode. Barry will like try to do something, he fails, and then someone gives him like a motivational speech on the earpiece, and he's like, yeah, and then he does the thing that he couldn't do, and like everyone's like, yeah, he did it. Iris, this speech, okay, for one, she should have said run, Barry, run, because that's like the thing that the series does. They always say run, Barry, run. And that's always really cool. And it would have called back to the first episode where Wells said that to Barry when he was trying to stop the first tornado from Weather Wizard. That would have been a cool like callback. But they didn't do that. Instead, she gives him the stupid speech about, she's like, Barry, you are the Flash. You're the Flash, Barry. You know that because you are the Flash. And Barry's like, I am the Flash. And then he goes and stops the tornadoes. And I'm like, that was the worst speech ever. Like, I understand you had to come up with it off the top of your head, Iris, but that was a bad speech. It was really, it took me off guard when the rival just like stabbed Wally West. I thought that was kind of funny. And it was kind of sad to see Joe in this other reality kind of be like this like overprotective dad who didn't really like Barry. Because Barry was kind of in the position that Eddie was in the first season, which was kind of cool to see. And I think that they were like trying to like use that to be like they were trying to like make Joe consistent. So they were like, oh, he's got to treat Barry the same way that he's treated all of Iris's boyfriends that weren't Barry in the other timeline. But by the end of the episode, Barry fixes the timeline. And that was really sad when Barry's like, I need you to kill my mom. And it's like, oh, man, that sucks that you have to ask that. That's really messed up. But Barry, he fixes the timeline, and then he goes back inside, and it picks up right where like it had ended at the second season. And he runs in, and he's like, where's Iris? And then Joe's like, that's not funny. And he goes upstairs, and they're like, Joe and Iris, they don't talk anymore. And it's like this big, oh, my God. And you're like, is that really it? Like, that's all that changed? Like, I think they've got to have more things that have been altered. There's going to be things, I'm sure of it. There's got to be, like, more reveals coming of, like, slight things that have altered the present in a big way. Maybe? I would hope. Because it really feels right now, if the only thing that Flashpoint did was make Joe and Iris have a rocky relationship, then it really feels like the biggest contrivance to like force characters to have a relationship that they didn't previously have. Like, we need them to be on the rocks with each other, so we'll just contrive this time travel device, and then we'll do this episode, and then when we bring it back, they'll be completely on completely different terms with each other. I don't know, that's kind of weird. But overall, this episode of The Flash season 3, which was called Flashpoint, this is the premiere. I think it was pretty fun, and I liked watching it. And, you know, as much as I didn't like some of the episodes of last season, I'm willing to give this season a chance now, because this episode had some pretty fun scenes in it that I overall, I'm glad that I'm still watching this show now, and I wasn't sure if I was glad at the end of season 2. So, yeah, guys, let me know what you think about this episode in the comments, and maybe we can do a little bit of interaction. And, yeah, this has been cool. So, peace out.